Hello, my friends. Welcome back to the PC Elitist. My name is Woodsy. The PC Elitist is a channel dedicated to video game commentary, playthroughs, a smattering of reviews, possibly, all from the PC perspective. If that sounds good to you, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button, thumbs up button, any of that good stuff. Engage in any way. It's cool and helps me out, and it's fun. Today I have a subject that kind of hit me really close to home. Basically, there was a news feed from Unknown Worlds, who is, I think, most famously the producers or the developers for Subnautica and Subnautica Below Zero. They I don't think I need to read, I'll post it up on the screen here, exactly what it is. But basically, their previous game, Natural Selection 2, which is one of my favorite multiplayer games of all time. And I actually had it on my mind a lot recently because I was working on kind of feeling out this video I wanted to do where it's 5 games that influenced my taste in video games the most when I was younger. And the original Natural Selection, which was a Half-Life mod, is on that list. And what Unknown Worlds recently posted just a couple days ago is that they're ceasing any kind of active development on Natural Selection 2. Now, it's kind of stagnant. I think mostly they've been doing some skins and just some aesthetic stuff to keep kind of the community with new things. And I think a lot of the changes were mostly community driven at this point. I could be wrong on that, but they weren't actively really amping up the game. Mostly they were just correcting things as the community needed, because the community isn't that big. But comparatively, it's not that big. But now they've basically said we're not doing any kind of new skinning. They're done with any active development. This game came out 10 years ago, and I still install it from time to time and play it. What does this have to do with Subnautica? Now, there's a big spoiler alert I have to kind of put here. If you care enough, probably most people who are listening to this probably already know this, but there was one of my favorite secret universe, editions of anything. If anyone saw Split and the end credit scene blew your mind, and I won't exactly say what it is, just in case. But it was like that for me, but in video game terms. And I'm going to spoil it, so if you don't want to hear this, just don't watch it. But basically, Subnautica, which in my opinion is kind of floats in my top 5 games of all time list. My top 5 games of all time, I would say is a little bit in flux at times. I want to do a video on my top 5, but admittedly, I kind of change them. It's kind of a list that I can't quite keep in total order because there's so many games I want to put in there. But Subnautica, I think, is still the king of all survival games. The fact that it's not multiplayer is the only thing that kind of draws it back, but it is the king, because it has some of the best story elements. It kind of did what I've been waiting for in the survival game genre for a long time. Okay, so when you're playing Subnautica and you're further into the game and you're discovering everything about these creatures, you come to discover that there is some sort of virus on the planet, and the planet is under an alien quarantine. And the Kara is the name of the virus that's turning these creatures into morphing these creatures into other things, or mutating them, I guess would be the thing to say. And what you realize in that moment, if you were a fan of natural selection, which I always was, that you're playing a secret prequel to a game that's like 8 years, like at the time, it was like 6 years old. And my mind exploded. Basically, like I was so excited that they connected. Like pragmatically, it doesn't actually do much, but like I loved the fact that they like connected these two worlds together. And like Natural Selection 2 is like, I think a few hundred years or a long time after. So apparently whatever happened with this virus, it got off world and became like an alien threat that you're now facing in Natural Selection 2. Just this great moment for me in video games. So you're watching footage right now. I installed Natural. This is how much I love you guys. Anyone watching, is that I had install Natural Selection 2. I know it's a big chore, and I played it for like 2 hours to get some footage. I know I do a lot. I do a lot for this channel, but Natural Selection 2 is for those of you who don't know, maybe there's a couple of you who don't really know what it's about, never jumped into it, or maybe at this point a little afraid to, because old multiplayer gaming communities are daunting or at least intimidating. I would say that NS2 has a really good community for the most. I mean, I've always felt welcome, even though I'm not very much like in it a lot. I probably jump in like maybe once a year. So it was kind of sad for me to see like, oh, we're not actively developing it anymore, because it was like that thing. It was kind of like a security blanket. I could always go to NS2, and that's not going to stop. It's not going to stop. We still go to NS2 and play it. And I'm encouraging, this is kind of like a video I'd like to just honor the awesomeness of Natural Selection 2. What a great multiplayer game it is still. I encourage all of you to check it out, install it, buy it, support the developers. It's an asymmetrical. It was so, at the time when it was like they were developing it for a Half-Life mod back in the day, to me it was like amazing that someone would attempt to make a RTS / first person shooter / asymmetrical like shooter game. It's like team game. To me it was so many things back then to try to like throw so many things into a mod, a full conversion mod of Half-Life. It was such a daunting idea to me. I couldn't believe that anyone would even attempt it. Because I really at the time don't remember ever anything like it. There's people who talked about it, back then you're playing StarCraft, and there's a few games that attempted weird facsimiles of this kind of thing. But I always thought when I was playing StarCraft, what would be an amazing game if you were like actually one of the Marines down there, and the Natural Selection was that thing. Now, it might grant you it's not on the scale of hundreds and hundreds of creatures, but it did. I'm going to reference another game. It did everything to me. It did everything Alien vs. Predator did in multiplayer, but better, because it added so many other layers to it. Alien vs. Predator, the original, had great multiplayer, which was even yet another step. It was 3 factions. You had Predator, Alien, and Marines, and them all, fighting together. Talk about asymmetrical. It's like 3 different things, right? But anyway, it's a RTS. There's like one commander on each side, enemies fighting each other, and I don't really have a whole lot to say. I just think that this moment I would like to capture, and I know this isn't like groundbreaking news. I'm not feeding the algorithm with a video like this, that's for sure. I just want to honor the game, one of the greats that just struck out and did its own thing. Once you've played Natural Selection 2, it's like has its own atmosphere. There's certain games that just strike an atmosphere where you can see like 2 frames of the game and you know exactly what that game is because it just has a certain look, feel to it. And Natural Selection 2 is one of those games. So I encourage all of you, if you have the gumption, you want to experience kind of some great old school shooters that don't necessarily follow the rules and aren't obsessed with balance. I'm not saying NS2 isn't balanced, but aren't obsessed with balance to where you weed out anything that's fun. Natural Selection 2 is there. It's still there. It still will be there. But it's kind of like the ending of something from the developer's point of view. And hopefully, my hope is that they revisit the series at some point in the future. Unknown Worlds, they do good work. Below Zero has issues. And Moonbreaker, I think, is a game they currently are working on. That's like a... if you look it up, it's like a Warhammer kind of desktop turn-based thing where you have figures and you can actually paint them in game and do all sorts of cool stuff. They're trying to bring that, tabletop, that whole experience of having figures and painting them and putting them on the field against each other, like that whole experience virtually. It's a great idea. Unknown Worlds, they really do come up with unique ideas. That's what I love about them. And I think we should celebrate them. One of their first big projects was Natural Selection 2. Go out and play it. Have fun with it. I will. I think I'm going to play some more of it this weekend, and I'm just excited to. And I think we should all just kind of revel in their amazing gameplay that they created for a little bit. That's all I had today. Everyone, have a great day. And I hope to see you skulking around.